PNG Happenings.
Welcome back to PNG Happenings. We'll be diving into current happenings at NASFUN FM 100's TOK BEK Show. Today, a critical discussion. East Sepik's governor weighs in on PNG's leadership turmoil and the future of our nation.
Remember to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this.
Welcome to the NASFUN FM 100 TOK BEK Show. Good morning to you wherever you're tuning in from. We have a special guest in the studio, all the way from East Sepik province, and most recently all the way from the floors of Parliament, from the events that transpired on Tuesday. The good governor for East Sepik, Honorable Alan Bird, who joins me in the studio. Governor, I keep saying over and over again, which one is it? Is it the governor, or is it the provincial member, or is it regional member? Me foul. Which one's that?
Well, the writs say provincial member. In Parliament, I'm a provincial member. Back home, I'm a governor. So those are the hats I wear.
I hope it's not a case of being politically correct, because I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side.
Yeah, well, some people get pedantic about these things and they get picky with all these little details. So some people start with low classroom kind of stuff.
Speaking of which, in other words, the motion there to actually put you as the nominee for PM, you said you got knocked back, 3 times? Due to a technical error, due to a technical issue that was deemed by the Private Business Committee.
If you recall at the time, we raised the issue on the floor that, you have normal parliamentary motions. The vote of no confidence is a constitutional motion, which means it overrides all other things. What Parliament has done, Parliament has its standing orders. In the standing orders, it makes its own rules. So I think about 15 years ago, they began to subject the constitutional motion to the Private Business Committee. And they did that by amending the standing orders. You see, when the Constitution was written and the VONC was put in there,
yes,
it wasn't subject to the standing orders. But parliamentarians, being the way they are, parliamentarians, if you have very power-hungry, very evil members of parliament, they look for ways to bend the rules and, in fact, many times break the rules as well. So, up until about 15 years ago, motions of no confidence were never subjected to the Private Business Committee, but they are now, because they wrote it into the standing orders. So, essentially, they look for all kinds of reasons to throw the motion out. The Private Business Committee was initially set up to look at private members' bills that go before the floor. So their primary role, as stipulated initially, was just to check if, last time, last month, Billy Kamel, walking amendment, that is their role. What they've done is they've added an extra role in there, which is to prevent votes of no confidence. So when they denied it the first couple of times, you remember we argued on the floor. We said, look, it's a constitutional motion. You can't do this. And then they were like, take it to court. Typical. I always say, an evil member of parliament will always say, take it to court. We have the ability to fix things, but they'll say take it to court because they're protecting themselves.
Yep.
Good man, I'm not to go to court. I'm like sit down and straighten.
Sit down, something I merit or not.
But this guy's not. So you can tell immediately that you take it to court, which James Nomane did. You remember?
Yes.
Honorable James Nomane did. So Nomane took it to court, and we knew all along that the Private Business Committee was exercising powers it did not have. The Private Business Committee has no powers over the Constitution. The Constitution overrides all of us. It has power over all of us. The entire country has its basis in the Constitution. You take the Constitution away, and this country is meaningless. We are a constitutional democracy. That's what we are. So, the basis of everything we do comes from the Constitution. What these guys have been successfully doing, illegally, is putting themselves above the Constitution. That's what they have been doing. And because all 5 of the members are Pangu Party, and they've decided that this is what they're going to do. And these are not idiots. These are very smart people with, university degrees and all of that.
True.
So that's what they've done. Now the court has told them that, no, you can't. And I think this is the second time the Supreme Court has ruled to say you can't do that. And it's the second time members of parliament have chosen to, in fact, offend the Constitution. That's what they've done. And this is why, if you recall, Honorable Brian Kramer stood up and said, look, we're going to go to court and sanction you under Section 23 of the Constitution. If you offend the Constitution, there is a rule there where you can be charged with it and you can get up to 10 years in prison.
Wow.
And so it's never been used, that particular, I guess, provision in the law. But it's coming to a point where, you see, members of parliament now, they don't care. They pass bad laws. As long as Prime Minister to give me Megi Moseme, Mogaraman just biarin him to say, yes, sir, all gotas, they don't question. You know, they just want to collect their money and go back and do their project. So passing a law, who cares about passing a law? Just come to Solarim, talk to the Prime Minister, peg him scrum, go inside, pass it, out.
Now, Governor, on that note, we had a public at the time, based on the decision that was made by the Supreme Court to actually recall Parliament on the no money case, in this case. Now, we had certain people that actually came in and sent in messages calling out the Clerk of Parliament, Kalaufa in this case, and saying the Clerk of Parliament and his team, shouldn't they have been the one that providing guidance to the parliamentary, the Private Business Committee, to ensure that they didn't step out of line?
I'll tell you what happens now. Sometimes you'll see that members of parliament are already on the floor and the speaker is not out. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Because some of the members of parliament, they go in there and they tell the speaker what to do. In fact, on the vote of no confidence, if you remember the first day we went in to accept the motion, members of government were already there, sitting there, telling the speaker that they were going to go inside and have the vote on that day. And so the Honorable Brian Kramer had to go in there with opposition leader and show the court order to the speaker and said, no, speaker, you can't do that. You've got to follow the standing orders, which is 7 days. Wow. Okay? And on the morning of the vote, they were not going to allow anyone to debate.
Debate, yes.
So they wanted to just go in there and then stand up and go straight in. And we said, no, the court order says specifically you have to debate the motion, 1, then you vote on the motion, 2. It was a very clear instruction, because the instruction from the Supreme Court is actually, they were just stating what was in the Constitution. The Constitution also requires you to debate and then pass a motion or vote on a motion. You're not supposed to just come and vote. You're supposed to debate first. Those rules are clearly outlined in the Constitution. But no, I'd only go inside now, like force him speaker. So to be honest, to be fair, Mibla opposition, Mibla looks away also. The speaker is under a lot of pressure. 1, he's their party member. And 2, he's got no choice. He has to listen to them. Otherwise, all by making them about looming. And that's what happens most of the time. And this is the reality we're talking about now. And that's wrong. The speaker should be in control of parliament. He shouldn't have members of the government go and dictate to him what to do. But they do anyway.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, my special guest this morning, the Honorable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik, my special guest in the morning. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Governor Bird, we're not opening up the phone lines just yet, but nothing's stopping you from sending us a message via WhatsApp. That's 77146340, or even email us live at fm100.com.pg. Again, email live at fm100.com.pg, or send a WhatsApp message to 77146340. You can also send a message to our Facebook page, because we are live streaming this interview. So for those who'd like to catch the action on video, please log on to Facebook and type in FM100 Papua New Guinea. That should take you straight to our Facebook page. Like the page, share the page. Currently on 90,000 followers. We want to take it all the way up to 100,000 followers by Independence Day. So commemorating 50, would like to commemorate also with 100,000 followers. You can do so by sharing our content, liking our page, and following our page as well, and encouraging all your friends on your friends list on Facebook to follow our page and like our page as well. We'll take a break and be back with more. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. You can have your say this morning by sending us a WhatsApp message to 77146340. My special guest, the Governor for East Sepik, Honorable Alan Bird, in the studio. Now, Governor, of course, what transpired on Tuesday itself, 89 votes to 16. The Prime Minister successfully defeating the vote of no confidence in this case. From many Papua New Guineans are wondering what happened. Why couldn't we master the numbers? And of course, people switching during the time to vote.
Well, most people, they think that votes of no confidence are easy. It's not easy. It's not easy putting together a vote of no confidence. First of all, you've got to kind of get it through all of the difficult stuff, which is get it onto the floor of Parliament. And that's hard. That's very hard. Because the government will use every trick in the book to throw it out, which they do quite successfully. Yeah. And then the other thing is there's a lot of discussions that go on behind the scenes that people don't see. You only see the action on the floor.
True,
right?
true.
So obviously, when the right to move a vote of no confidence, that power rests with the opposition. It's really the only power we have. We don't have any other powers. So the power to nominate, to move a vote of no confidence lies with the opposition. It's specifically given to us, I guess, by law, and it's something that we use. It's the only thing we have, really. So when we were contemplating a vote of no confidence, obviously we have to talk to those in government. And at the time when Sepita was put on the notice paper, Sepita Ipatas's name, there was a discussion with leaders in the government. And they all agreed there that, look, put Sepita on the ballot paper. So they brought Sepita across to us in the opposition and said, put him on. We'll support him, which we did. And obviously there were lots of discussions that took place. Sepita didn't join the opposition immediately. He had to stay at his hotel and try to talk to the people that convinced him to put his name on the ballot paper. Now, if you remember when the Honorable Rainbow Paita was his name was on the ballot paper, there was, when he lost, and he actually in his speech he spoke about the people that kind of betrayed him. And to form a new government, you really need the members from government to break up. That's how it works. Opposition doesn't have the number. We just provide the platform, I guess, for the change to occur. The change comes from within government. And so, unfortunately, all of those people that convinced Sepita Ipatas to put his name on the ballot paper, at the 11th hour, they decided not to support him. Okay. And I'm not privy to those discussions. Yeah. But I did speak to some of the members who are in government. Well, we all speak. I spoke to ministers, I spoke to backbenchers, and I asked them, what are you guys thinking? The sentiment I got was that they're all unhappy with the way the country is being run. And
that's exactly what Sepita said.
Yeah.
In his speech, in his address, at his concession.
Look, when you talk to members of parliament by themselves, they're all unhappy. I mean, I spoke to several MPs, the quietest ones are the ones from NGI. The NGI guys don't say anything. They just keep really quiet. So I spoke to a few of them. I said, look, what are you guys thinking? And they said, look, we're not happy with the way, James Marape and his team are running the country. We're just waiting for Bougainville to be independent and we'll be next.
Wow. And
I said, hang on. The problem is, about 5 people are. There's James Marape and Undialu and, a couple of others, they're the ones that are the real ringleaders. I said, why can't you just get rid of them? Why you want to break up the country as a solution to how these people are running the country? And they said, Mipla tired there, but Mipla sabi lo pasin lo lol, bagarapin Mipla, so Mipla must stop. But Mipla waiting Bougainville. As soon as Bougainville goes, NGI, we're going. I was like, wow. And then you look at the Papuan team. The Papuans had a meeting, convened by the Honorable Rufina Pita, and they're expressing the same sentiments. And all of that is a frustration with the government. I'm not in government. They're not frustrated with Alan Bird as Governor of East Sepik. But I know that my people are also having the same frustrations. It's a frustration of, on top of the same things, law and order, lack of opportunities, lack of power. We can't get power, water problems. There's no money coming down to maintain, all of the normal problems that every single province has, which are sort of, because we have a centralized system of government, all these problems start in the center. So the center collapses, the outside collapses. So we have all the same problems. But then all of these problems and how the country is managed, how things are prioritized, it then leads to other things. People are realizing, all right, well, look, as leader for so-and-so, I'm not really getting anything done because everything is done from the center, and the problem is the government. And rather than dealing with the government, they would prefer to break up the country. These are the sorts of discussions that are going on amongst members of parliament.
How should I say? If I could use an analogy, this is the case where I would describe it as a very toxic marriage. You've got one very unhappy partner who can't really speak out about what they see is wrong. And they're looking at probably, going to the courts to actually dissolution the marriage in this case. They're suffering, but they're staying because they can't really speak out. Otherwise, they get all their benefits cut.
I describe it like this. You have a rat in your house, destroying your house. Rather than deal with the rat, we want to burn the house down just to kill one rat. That's what we're trying to do.
Goodness.
That's the way I see it. You should deal with the rat, don't burn the house.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, at this juncture, if you have any questions, please don't call in just yet. We haven't opened up the phone lines, but again, please post your comments on our Facebook page. I'm seeing a lot of the comments being posted right now, and your questions as well. Also, send us a WhatsApp message to 77146340. Again, 77146340. My special guest, the Honorable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik. This morning on the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. We'll take a break and be back with more. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. Governor Alan Bird, the Governor for East Sepik, my special guest in the studio this morning. And good morning to those of you currently tuning in all the way from East Sepik, wherever you may be, up in Wiatu, Long Wantok, start long Surrender Hill. Been there one time. Morning to Blogata. And those currently listening on a bus traveling from, I think, Wasara. Someone was saying, thank you, Thomas. Appreciate your company this morning. Governor, with what's transpired, you put out a post, was it yesterday or the day before, where you're saying, and this is what I asked you last time, many people, we've got from most of our feedback from our listeners out there and our viewers, they're saying, okay, if you wanted to be, if you have the mandate to be an alternate prime minister, unfortunately, you're not a party leader. For that matter, you start nothing with no party affiliation at this point. And you did post something yesterday that said that, well, the call for you to actually create a party, or even there's a possibility that you could represent a party or take over a party in this case, you said you would consult. So, big question, does that mean that you will be going beyond the 10-year promise that you made to yourself?
Well, first of all, the Constitution is quite clear. Any member of parliament can be nominated to be prime minister. It doesn't have to be a party leader. Okay, so let me make that clear. It's just that, like I said, members of parliament, they like to make up little rules that give them comfort. But the Constitution is quite clear. Any member of parliament can be nominated to be a prime minister. James Marape wasn't a party leader when he became prime minister. He just had to stitch Pangu Party together after, if you remember the events that followed, But up until that point, he wasn't a party leader, yeah? But now they want to change the rules just to make it suit themselves. And that's the other thing, there's, I think, Section 63 of the organic law on provincial and local level governments, the invitation letter. Personally, I believe that that's illegal because it infringes on the rights of members of parliament. As you know, before the vote of no confidence, I put in a Section 145, the amendment, Section 145.5, is now before the courts, and we're going to be hearing it. I believe it's unconstitutional also, and I believe that the courts will rule and support the Constitution. I have a strong belief. That's the reason we filed. The next one we're going to file is the Section 63 of the organic law on the invitation. I believe that's illegal because the Constitution is not subordinate to an organic law. It's supreme. The Constitution is supreme. So whatever is in the Constitution needs to be respected. So that's the next reference that we're going to take to throw that one out. And then, NEC, the government brought in a bill, sneaky. They sneaked it in. It seemed like a little bill, and I never read it. Because they bring it to you now and then they expect you to read it and pass it like 5 minutes later, But that particular one I didn't read. I was busy, I think, reading the bill on the text bill, which was 118 pages. And anyway, so they sneaked that through, and in there they said that NEC decisions are now non-justiciable, which means that the courts can't hold NEC to account. So that's one that we have to take to court and throw out. We also have to take the anti-terrorism bill to court. You know, there's quite a few things there. But, you know, even then, too, we face another problem. The problem is that if you are going to take any of these things to court, you need permission from the Attorney General. So these are some of the, you know, like I said, they do a lot of things to protect themselves. A lot of these laws are passed to protect the government, which is wrong. You know, the government should be accountable to the people. It cannot shield itself from scrutiny. It cannot shield, like, for example, if NEC took a decision that affected a company or affected you or me, I should have a right to go to court and say, look, this is wrong, and get the court to rule. Well, they just passed a law that said, no, you can't do that. NEC basically makes decisions and nobody can question it. That's what they're saying. So these are some of the laws that the government has been amending to protect itself from, I think, the public, all of us. That's what they're doing. And so that's what we're doing. We're just going back to court to say, no, it's unconstitutional, throw it out, rouse it.
So coming back to my question.
Oh, there's a lot. Well, look, I personally think that, you know, members of parliament shouldn't become entrenched. You may go inside and look more some more. I'm garden blaming by missing on have na kage over the time na stapa. And so I plan to serve as a governor for 10 years. And there were a few things that I wanted to achieve, and I've achieved most of them already. You know, there are only two things left. One is the airport extension, which, you know, we're working on it now. And the other one is the solar power supplier. These are things that came on. And so hopefully by last quarter of this year, we're going to get a solar power station in with the help of the European Union. So, and the Australian government. So after that, like, there's not much for me to do. And I'm quite happy to go. I want to retire. I can't keep fighting with people that don't understand, and people with evil intentions, and all they want to do is protect themselves. But then, like, you know, I guess when you're doing the right thing, all Manmeri looks away. So there's been a call, even like across the country, which surprised me, to be honest. And that's why you see in the parliament sitting on Tuesday, I just kept quiet. I didn't want to make any noise. You know, and credit to like Kramer, Sepuka Temo, Kerenga Kua, you know, amazing young James Nomane, young Keith Iduhu, you know, even Governor Central, you know, amazing people with their amazing intellect and insight, and, you know, the debates that came forward was just very rich, you know. I was impressed with the team, Dr. Lino. So, you know, so I sat there and I decided not to become involved because I thought, you know, online to all fit man, karim heavy, all stuff. So, Larimol walking walk now. So I just kind of didn't want to participate too much because they were doing a great job. They didn't need me to weigh in. But somehow, like, me looking more and people from Papua New Guinea only, and I got so many messages and from so many people, and
even on your own Facebook page.
On my own Facebook page too, which surprised me because, you know, I didn't expect it. But I think, you know, maybe I'm doing a few things that Papua New Guineans find refreshing. You know, Papua New Guineans are sick and tired of the way we run the country. And there's not a lot of transparency, and we're trying to reduce transparency. And I think when they see that someone is, you see, you know, all my training, I'm trained by BHP, basically. I'm trained to run a mine. That's my training. I'm trained to be a mining executive. So in my training, you know, we are taught that transparency and accountability is everything. You know, people need to understand what the business is all about in order to make it work. So that's the training I've received. So when I'm in government, like in East Sepik, I've done the same thing. I've brought transparency to the process of government. So people are participating more. You know, you hear people like Dr. John Momisa, the father of our constitution. He talks about people participating in democracy. Well, in private sector, that's the way you operate a business. Is everybody in the business needs to understand how the business is. And so that's how I've been trained. So when I came into East Sepik as the governor, I try to bring transparency to the operations of local level governments. We don't have transparency in DDAs, and that's something that I'm hoping will change in the future. But we're beginning to get transparency in local level government, provincial government, just opening it up so people can come in and participate, because that is your check and balance, having people be able to look in, can hide him. And so, participatory democracy. And that's what our democracy is about. And, Dr. Momis talks about that a lot. The man is still alive, very, very smart man. And I spend a lot of time talking to him, listening to him, learning from him. And I find that his views and my views are very similar. I didn't learn from Dr. Momis. And Dr. Momis, he was around in the 1970s.
Wow.
And I learned from BHP, which is a mining company. And I learned the same principles from them. And it's very similar to what, Dr. Momis talks about. So, and I think that's what I bring to the floor of Parliament. And I think Papua New Guineans haven't really seen that kind of. But if you've operated at a board level, if you've run a major company, you've sat on a major board, and I've sat on some pretty major boards of private companies in my time, you understand the importance of having this transparent operating culture. And most of Papua New Guinea's political culture is a closed operating system, because time will hide him something, and look him. It's very easy for them to move money around, play around with contracts, and they do all these things to help their friends. And they don't really tell you what they're doing. So a lot of things are kept quite secret. Even members of Parliament don't know. So the public doesn't know. And anyway, so time we look at most of them. You read some of the comments. You read the comments that people put out. And a lot of them are quite heartfelt. People say to me, and I bump into people on the street, and they come up as, liang pula papa or mama. They come and shake my hand. They got tears in their eyes, and they say, "Thank you for what you're doing. It's giving me hope. It's giving me hope for my children." When people say things like that to you, me to be a human being, it affects me. And then I sit down, and then and then people are telling me, "Don't leave. We want you to stay." And so, all those things are mio glosarlo tinding tuna. And so I've got to kind of consider that and put my life on hold. And I've got to talk to some of my friends, the people that support me, and the people that are close to me. And I've got to find out, because I understand what it means to run the country. I've run a province. It's not an easy thing. So I know that I'm not kidding myself to say it's an easy job. I'm not kidding myself to say that. But having said that too, I know I can lead a party to the elections. We'll probably win 5 seats. So that frees me. It's no longer my responsibility, you know what I mean? But then, we could win 25 seats. And they're already my good friends, Kerenga Kua, Keith Iduhu, our friends in Parliament, or members of Parliament that share the same views, Dr. Lino, even Sepida Ibatas, all these people. And even some in government, they're telling me that, look, we'd be happy to support you if the time comes. And so I have to think about that, because, when I was the nominee, it gave me a hard time, because I'd be up for 20 hours a day thinking, all right, these are the things that need to be fixed. We need to fix this, starting from law and order, foreign currency, foreign direct, we need investments, we need this, we need this, we need this, how do we fix it? So I did a whole list on my phone, which is still there. So, that's what's going to happen when you're running the country. And look, given my background as a mining executive, you don't do everything yourself. Like now in East Sepik, and the other day, Prime Minister was criticizing East Sepik province, and I said, look, hold on a minute. My public servants in East Sepik, I call them my public servants. I fought them when I became governor. I was very hard on them, to the point where Trangu will change. They're changing. And they're beginning to deliver results. And so I've softened my approach a little bit towards the public servants. And I realized that, look, they're good people. When I was outside, I fought them. When I became governor, I fought them. But Trangu will start to change now. Our local level government, some of them are beginning to function now from not functioning at all before.
Wow.
So, people are capable of doing good things. You just got to create the space for them to operate. So, I don't go and dictate to the provincial administrator, pay this guy or do this or do that. He knows his job. He's a professional. He's been trained. he's been in the public service longer than me. Me, I started so mikami, So, when the Prime Minister started criticizing East Sepik, I said, hold on a minute. I've got good people in East Sepik who are working hard, like the public service, even in the police force, everywhere. There's good people there, good Papua New Guineans. You just need good leadership at the top for those people to do their job. Like, one of the things, like, one at a time, because I've got a public service that's working now. So, and I used to meet with them like once every 2 weeks, and I'd be like, what's happening here? What's happening there? What's you go on one time. Administrator, I'm doing looming, governor, respectfully, I'm talking. Maybe all public servants, yeah, we're working. All the things you want us to do, we're doing it. He said, can you get out of the way and let us do our job? And I think I'm the only member of parliament where the public servants actually tell me, Governor, can you get out of the way and let us do our work? And, I stopped for a while and I thought, wow, these people are telling me to get out of the way. And I was happy to do that. And I think that's the way I operate. I need good people to do my work. I can't do my work myself.
You can't micromanage.
No, I don't micromanage. I was trained not to micromanage. So, and this is where I'm thinking to myself, all right, it's a hard job if you're going to be Prime Minister. I mean, I never thought that far ahead. I thought about, I've worked out how to be a governor. I've worked that out. And so, you're just taking that to a higher level. But then I told myself, look, in the departments, you've got highly qualified people there. Many of them with master's degrees, multiple master's degrees, some of them. They've got good training. They may have to be upskilled a little bit. A lot of the secretaries are very competent, You just need good ministers because a lot of the ministers are not qualified. You've got a highly qualified secretary and a minister that basically thinks he knows what he's doing but doesn't.
Yep.
So you just got to fix that, and then suddenly you'll find all these brilliant Papua New Guineans in public service positions are going to perform. So I thought, all right. So I'm thinking about it and thinking, all right, yeah, you might look. The likelihood of failing to become Prime Minister is very high. You can't dream and say, look, I'm going to be Prime Minister. That's impossible. You've got to win 30 seats or something, and then you need coalition partners who are going to support you, So the chances of becoming Prime Minister are very slim after 2027, very slim. And so I'm thinking to myself, yeah, okay, the chances of failure are high. And I just need to find out the people that are going to back me up. Like, for instance, and, I thank the Papua New Guineans for saying, all about contributing money in this lana. That broke my heart. Like, over the election, I miss a broken business, I miss a rone. I miss a Philip Samlock, money, man Marina. Because you don't want to let people down. You get their money and they're expecting you to do something great and then suddenly you fall down. So letting people down is something that I struggle with, letting the public down. But I'm thinking, if everyone is game and it's something that I want to think about for maybe the next 2 months. And I want to talk to people in the private sector. The people in the private sector, they need a good government. They know it. We all know it. So
they drive the economy.
So I want to talk to some of the business people out there and say, look, if I do this, if I stick my neck out, I'm happy to stick my neck out. I always stick my neck out, but I do it as an individual. And and I have a great team. I like the, people like Krenga Kua, James Donald, all these guys, Kramer. Even to some extent now, PeterONeill. PeterONeill, he's been sitting back a bit and sort of letting us do our thing, and just seeing them there, and you're thinking, all right, maybe we should think about this, and it's not for me. It's for the people. I mean, I'll be honest. I've got a job offer to leave Parliament, and go and run a major company, which is something I'm very good at doing, and I'd love to do that. Do something easier. I don't want to. In Parliament, sometimes it's a sin to be intelligent, and I sometimes feel a bit bad that when I'm out there debating and I make other members of Parliament look bad. Mr. Pilim, no good Kenya. But in private sector, they're all really smart people. So you're sort of in your element there. You're working with people that are at your level. So I kind of wanted that a little bit. You know what I mean? But look, it's something that it's a big decision. I got to go back and talk to everyone, and especially on CPGM. Me looking for some more CPGM. Soldado Sanabna. So I want to go back and talk to a bunch of them and get a feeling and lay the cards out. I'm not a guy that runs into things blindly. I want to look at the entire landscape and figure out if it can be done or not, and what can we do, what can't we do. figure out how much it's going to cost, and then we work on that basis. So, sorry, I'm long explanation, but it's not an easy decision to make from my perspective, and I wanted to give people an appreciation about why I want to take some time and do this thing properly and then come back with a response.
And when might that be, if I'm not pressing too much?
Maybe in a couple of months. I'm going home over the weekend, and we got stuff to do at home. Maybe to travel around, plenty of road brook. They're all national government roads. To collapse about. We don't have the money. We haven't received any money from national government since May last year. So,
since May last year?
Since May last year. So
approaching 12 months.
Yes, 9 months now, no got money. So another 3 months and it'll be a record, 12 months not receiving any money from the national government.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, we haven't opened up the phone lines just yet, so talk side Zul. We're going to be taking a look at some of your messages coming in via WhatsApp and via Facebook. On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, my special guest, the Honorable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik. On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, welcome back. There's some questions from some of our viewers out there and some of our listeners. In this case, stating some of the following questions, and from Amos, all the way from Magarima, asking Governor Bird, why is it that your own Sepik MPs don't support your I think he's using the term support your plight to be PM and to change the government. What do they know about your leadership style and association connections, etc., that the rest of PNG don't know, that's preventing them from supporting you in this case? And he gave an example. Even Richard Maru doesn't seem to support you and the opposition. And so why is it that he remains with Marape in this case?
Oh, look, there are many reasons, but look, how do I run the province? I mean, I run the province very transparently, and I'll give you an example. This year, when we had to pass the budget, we need what we call a JPP BPC resolution. Now, my members of parliament trust me enough. I think only 2 MPs, member WeWork, and only member WeWork was available. So we didn't have quorum to pass the budget. So what I did was, I just got on the phone. I think Minister Maru was in Japan, and Honorable Wapunai was, because he's an assistant speaker, so he was in Indonesia, picking up a St. Michael's statue, the one that's supposed to be mounted for the 50th anniversary celebration somewhere in Mosby. So all our MPs were all over the place. So all I did was rang them up on the phone and said, look, we're trying to pass the budget here. Are you guys happy with the budget? And so I got a verbal resolution on the phone to pass the budget. They didn't have to be there physically. So in terms of our working relationship, I have a very good working relationship with all my MPs. In fact, in our secret discussions, they tell me, and it's not a nice thing to say, but I'll say it. They say this, they say, look, James Marape is a Highlander. If we don't work with him, you will use our Emba Bagarabi me play. So you keep doing what you're doing, and we'll stay in government.
Good, it's got to that point.
It's at that point. So, I have no, if big Blue Kamamlo government, they'll all leave. You think there are 3 Sepik MPs, and I'm counting East and West. That actively talk to me every day, essentially, and support me openly. 3 or 4. So, and I understand why they have to stay in government and keep quiet. It's the same reason everybody else stays in government and keep quiet. So, I have no ill feelings towards them. I mean, Maru himself, he aspires to be Prime Minister. In fact, 2022, he campaigned around East Sepik and other parts for his MPs. He campaigned against James Marape openly. And he positioned himself to be a prime ministerial nominee. He told the people of East Sepik that, look, I'm going to be the next prime minister, so support me. I didn't campaign like that. One of the reasons why I stayed as an independent MP is that I didn't want to fight for party leadership, and I didn't even expect to be a nominee, I left to join the opposition when I found out about the Paraka payments and all of this. And I also found out that, you remember the RESI program? They were fixing classrooms and things like that. I found out that, James Marambe was the education minister at the time running all those contracts, you think. I didn't know those things. So, when I found out, I got uncomfortable supporting the prime minister and I left. So, Maru I can understand because he wants to be prime minister. So, supporting me would sort of go against his own personal ambitions, Me, to be honest, I don't really care either way, like I said, I've got opportunities in private sector. One of the reasons why I've stayed honest and transparent in the way I operate is because, like Bagarabim Nemlumi, when I finish from politics, I want to go back to private sector, and I want to go and make some money. For me, making money is in the private sector, it's not in government. So keeping a good name and maintaining my integrity is important financially for me,
Is it easy trying to maintain that?
It's hard. But for me, it's easy. It's something I've done all my life. So, I don't try to go and get involved in funny contracts. This is like Rotem Hamas, 200 million. Okay, let's keep the contract at 380 million and let's split the difference. That's what people are doing. Everybody knows it, I don't get involved in things like that. Because I feel that a good reputation is worth more than whatever money you might make now. And, when you make money the hard way, it lasts. If you're going to cut corners and do silly things, you can make 10 million kina tomorrow solve by penis. So, look, it's a selfish reason for keeping my name held clean. But a clean name is very rare in Papua New Guinea. So, especially like someone like me with a business background, I deal with, very significant, I deal with a lot of billionaires that are interested in sort of working in Papua New Guinea, and many of them have made me offers to go work with them, because of my reputation. So, for me, there's value in keeping a good name, and I maintain that. And I never planned to be in politics for a long time. I thought, come in, do my bit. I'll be in province Flomina, something which I've done. I could do more, but everything is done. It's a centralized government, so all authorizations come from Waigani. So within that system, I've done all I can, and I plan to leave when my job was done. I didn't plan to come and be a politician until Milapun and Dailowo come a prime minister. I didn't plan on all those sorts of things.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show, my special guest, the Honorable Governor for East Sepik, Alan Bird. We'll take a break at this juncture and be back on the other side with more of your questions coming in as well. Got Greg from Townsville, I think, sent some 2 particular questions concerning alternative policies from the opposition in terms of law and order and austerity measures. So that question we'll be reading immediately after these short messages. You're listening to the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. The Honorable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik, my special guest this morning. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. The Honorable Alan Bird, Governor for East Sepik, my special guest this morning. Again, we're not opening up the phone lines just yet, getting through some of our WhatsApp messages and our Facebook messages coming in. Now, Greg from Townsville has 2 particular questions. Particularly on law and order, he says, what does the opposition propose? And this is probably coming back to what you said when you had sleepless nights writing down the alternate policies of the alternate government in this case. Now, for law and order, Greg asks, what does the opposition propose to combat the rising law and order issues in PNG? Honorable Nomane was scathing in his criticism of Peter Semalili Jr. and his handling of the escalating law and order issues. If he was in government, what measures would he take to combat the law and order issues? And then, also on austerity measures. Honorable Nomane and Honorable Karen Gakua have both spoken about austerity measures to reduce government spending. What are the top priority measures to enforce as far as spending cuts, tax increases, structural reforms in the public service or government departments? On that also, 2 questions from Greg from Townsville.
Thank you, Greg. On the issue of policing, and not policing only, I think it was 2013. Or was it? Yeah, 2013. I was an advisor paid for by the Australian government, working for the late Manasupe Zurano in the Department of PM and NEC. And we had a meeting with and we did some work, myself and a couple of other experts, and we met with John Carley, who is now High Commissioner to Australia. He used to be Secretary for Public Service, Department of Personal Management. Anyway, In that, we made several recommendations. One of them was, and we recognized even back then, that you had management gaps for police. For instance, and we call it the missing middle. In management terms, we call it the missing middle. So one of our recommendations back then, which, when James Marape became Prime Minister, I told him the same thing, and I gave him the same advice, which was they've got to build their middle management in the police force, not just police force, but the public service generally, and start training public service leaders. And as you know, if you go back all the way to Vision 2050, we've got some of those recommendations in there as well. So this thinking goes back, quite a long way. It's not something that's recent. And so I'm happy to say that some of those things are being implemented now. For instance, I understand that we have 200 young police officers who are who are attached to the Australian police now as part of their training program, and they're going to come out, and hopefully they'll be, once they're ready, they'll be dispatched to the districts and everywhere else and start to provide that leadership that we need to that's missing in the middle. For instance, you've got PPCs, and then from the PPC down, a PPC is giving orders to a sergeant. That's not supposed to happen in the structure of the police force. So that's structurally, those are some of the things they've got to fix, and these are things that have been missing for a while. That's one. Two, you need a stopgap measure in the meantime. And right now, the way the police are structured, again, it's fully centralized, which I understand. But in terms of financing, you look at East Sepik. East Sepik is a province that's larger than Israel in terms of land area, so it's not small, it's huge. And we only have I think it's 155 police officers. We don't have a lot of police officers, so we need more. All right. But the other problem they have is operations. They don't have any money to operate. The East Sepik Provincial Police Commander gets about 194,000 kina a year, and he's supposed to run police in 6 districts with that money. So one of the things I've been doing in East Sepik is we've been taking our tax money and we've been funding police operations. I think this year, East Sepik Provincial Government is going to pay about 2.6 million to get an additional 200 reserve police officers to go in and help our 155 regular police. So we're doing that this year. But on top of that, we're spending about 1.8 million, which is to pay for their fuel, pay for their computer, ink, printers, coffee, tea and sugar, tires for their cars, maintenance for their cars. We're having to do that. Now, meantime, the police command here in, if you remember what the treasurer was saying, the police command here in Konedobu is going to receive 600 and almost 700 million this year. They're going to get 700 million. Now, from our tiny budget, we are having to fund police operations in East Sepik. One of the things I would do very quickly is to move some of the funds from provincial headquarters over to all of the provincial commands. But you don't give the money to the PPC, you give it to the provincial administrator. You put it under his vote because the provincial administrator is a senior, he's an executive level appointee in the public service, very senior, more senior than the PPC. So you allow him to use his Section 32 powers to operate those funds. So, different sized provinces, different amounts of money, That way, for example, the taxpayers' money for East Sepik, I shouldn't be spending it on law and order. I should be spending it on other things that are of value to the people of East Sepik, but I'm spending it on law and order. And every single toya I'm finding, I'm pushing to law and order. But you have a 700 million kina budget that belongs to the police here. I'm building a police barracks now using PSIP money because I want to attract the regular officers that graduate out of. I want to take 40 new officers to Wibek, and then I want to build another police barracks in Maprik. So I take another 40 officers there, regular policemen, to beef up the numbers. I got 3 districts covered on one side, I got 3 districts covered on the other side.
Yep.
Now, I'm not supposed to be building police barracks. I'm Woklong, national government, but I have to do it because my people need law and order. And it's not only me. You go to every single province and people are doing similar things. So the question is, I have to say, Deputy Commissioner Mitna, he's been really helpful. Tranguem Saflai Gokamna, we talked to him and he's been trying to help. Beef up our capacity. And I'm just using East Sepik as an example, but it's the same story everywhere else. But that's something I do immediately. Coming to austerity measures, and this is where I think we differ in our opinions with the government of the day. I've had these arguments with Ian Lingstaki, and even with Prime Minister Marape. Prime Minister Marape believes in raising more and more money and, giving that money to members of parliament to go and spend. I believe in raising or using your existing revenue streams. You don't have to go and tax people more or everything. And if you remember, I made a proposal, which is a very good proposal, based on international benchmarks, to go to a block grant system. A block grant system would cost this country an extra 3 billion kina a year. Now that would make all the provinces work. It would, and this money would come out of the PIP budget. It will come out of the budget the national planning manages. If you moved an extra 3 billion down, the national government would still have 7 billion kina to play around with. So you just have to shift and change the funding structure and the responsibility structure. You wouldn't have to raise more money. And this is where we come back to, if I took over government tomorrow, I'd stop the borrowing straight away, and I'd find savings internally to make sure that because you got to remember, this government has borrowed more money than all the governments since independence. They've beaten everybody, and they've gone over. Not only that, they have additional debts that are sitting outside the books that haven't come on stream yet, you see. And this year we're having financial problems, right? Why do I say we're having financial problems? If you remember, the Honorable Richard Masere, he stood up in Parliament and said that he's going to get 178 million kina to run the elections. Last week, James Marape called all the provincial administrators into Port Moresby, all right, or last week or this week. And he told all the provincial administrations to pay for the elections. So where's the 178 million that's supposed to go to Richard Masere and his team to run the elections? Now, East Sepik provincial government, we've been asked to take out 500,000 kina from all the DSIPs of all the districts. So that gives us 3 million, and then province is supposed to put down another 500,000, so 3.5 million to run the elections.
That's what they've asked the...
They've asked all provinces, but I'm giving you the East Sepik example. All right? Now they want us to pay for this out of PSIP. All right. Now, the service providers in East Sepik, based on the 2022 elections and the recent census, are owed 5.6 million, and they're complaining to me. They're owed this money by NSO, and they're owed this money by the Electoral Commission. Now they're saying to me, look, we're not going to let you run the elections until we get paid. And these aren't my bills, these are national government bills. When I say my bills, provincial government bills. So every province has been asked to fund the elections where Richard Masere is supposed to pick up, Honorable Richard Masere and his team are supposed to pick up 178 million from the treasurer. Okay? So now I'm thinking the elections might fail because, I have to go and talk to my open members. We have 10 days to go, and my open members are supposed to give 500,000 each, and I don't think they're going to be happy with that. On top of that, our 50th anniversary celebrations, they've told all of us to take out 1 million from PSIP to pay for the celebrations. Now, that tells me that we have serious cash flow problems. Last year, I had to take 2 million kina in PSIP funds to pay for medicine for the people of East Sepik. Medicines are supposed to be paid for by the National Department of Health. Apparently, the money never got there. So we already have serious cash flow problems as far as I'm concerned, because this little money, this little work, no last people, you see, this little work. And so the first thing I would do is I would just take a look at the current budget, the existing revenue streams, and then figure out how to use that money properly. At the moment, I'm sure, even I think it was ICAC that estimated that around 5 billion kina in our budget annually goes missing. And they said it was in the paper. If you tightened up on your expenditure and made sure that the money went to the right places and to the right people, you would get better results, and it would cost you less money. On top of that, as you know, inflation is a result of spending too much money. Too much government expenditure results in inflation. So a lot of our inflationary pressures actually comes from government spending too much money, So, I would cap that quickly, and I think it can be done. I've spent enough time looking at the budgets over the last couple of years to understand enough to say that if you change the structure of how you're spending the money, you can save enough money so that you can continue to pay for your services without affecting your services. And I think you can even cut down or even stop borrowing altogether. And then you've got to start repaying loans now. You know, our loan repayments this year are 3.6 billion kina. You know, when the Honorable Ian Liksaki stood up and said, oh, our budget has increased by 600 million this year. Well, that 600 million kina increase is just the increase in debt repayments. You know, they never said that. But here's the thing. So austerity works. You know, companies, governments around the world. I mean, you look at, I think it's Argentina or one of these South American countries. You know, they're putting in austerity measures now in order to save money and to reduce the runaway inflation that they have.
Oh, that's Argentina. Javier Milei.
Yeah. So look, this is not rocket science. These things are tried and tested, and economists all over the world have done it. It's just that, and you remember, you know, I had a heated argument with James Marape in Parliament where cross lo mina togosem. You plus I think you plus sabe man, you plus sabe lo olga something. He said something to that effect. He said, you know, I have to borrow more and more money so I can give more and more money to the districts. And I'm like, hang on a minute. You've given so much money. Have you gone down to measure, you know, what you're achieving with all these monies? You know what I mean? So, you know, my disagreement with James Marape is basically on management issues, how we're managing the country. I have nothing against the man personally. And EMSA cross time, me plakam na talking more, making more EMSA cross. It is not a private thing. Running the country and something about people here. We should be more open about how we do it, and you know, bringing in austerity measures and doing the right thing to get more bang out of the budget. It's what we should be doing anyway. We shouldn't be running around borrowing, and you know, we shouldn't be running around increasing taxes on everyone to get more and more money. To do what? We should be achieving more with the current monies that we have. And what they're doing now is the national government is spending a lot of money, and they're cutting the funds that go down to the provinces. If you remember in 2023, and I asked the question last year, there was $1 billion kina that got reallocated. Part of the money that got reallocated in 2023 came out of the health department, and I think it came out of the budget that was to pay for medicines. So they cut money from everywhere else to send it to members of parliament. And we still don't know to this day who got that 1 billion kina. I hope that answers your question.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Bek Show, we'll take a break at this juncture. And coming up as well, yes, more of your questions. You're listening to the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Bek Show. Honorable Alan Bird, my guest this morning. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Bek Show. Honorable Alan Bird, my guest this morning. Governor, you also mentioned during the talk on austerity measures, I think one question that came in from Greg of Townsville also was touching on the bureaucracy that we have, and in particular when you have state agencies and departments that seem to be having duplicate roles in this case. For me, like one example would be when you talk about you know, a huge amount of money being given to at the district level. Now we've got the DSIP in this case. You have this is something that, you know, it confuses me sometimes. You have the DIRD, Department of Implementation Rural Development, that monitors that. But then the Constitution provides for the Attorney General, the Auditor General, that's supposed to be keeping an eye on. Now, sadly, over the years, I keep saying this over and over again. Auditor General seems to be one of the most poorly funded constitutional offices that we have. They've just got enough just to pay the light bills, just to pay for the rentals, just to pay for remunerations, and so on. And just coming back to this, would you be looking at restructuring or doing away with some departments? And when you mentioned Javier Milei from Argentina, that's what he did. He looked at departments that didn't need to be there, and he said, you know, that's when the term afuera became popular, because he said, with this one, afuera ticked it off while he was speaking in Argentina in this case.
Now look, the entire system needs to be reviewed. And this is where, you know, and if you remember some years back, there was a government policy to move public servants out to the districts, okay? Now that decision's been there for maybe 10, 12 years. It's never actually been done. Now in East Sepik, we've tried to do that. We've tried to sort of rebuild our local level governments, and we're trying to push our public servants out. So fixing the houses, all those kinds of things to get the public servants down there to the LLG so they can serve our people there. Okay, coming back to the national departments, when you have so many people doing the same thing, it leads to inefficiency. The PNG government public service structure at the moment is inefficient. So I bring you back to, when I talk about block grants, people don't understand the full extent of the block grant. The block grant is about pushing funding and responsibility down to where it matters. Okay, that means that your national agencies will remain as oversight and what we call audits and inspections.
Yes.
So you would have to strengthen your audits and oversight at the national level. So what will happen is that policy gets developed at the national level, implementation occurs at the provincial and district level, which is where the people are. You then need to strengthen things like Auditor Generals, things like National Economic and Fiscal Commission, which is part of Treasury. You need to strengthen DIRD, for instance, so that if you are going to maintain those funds down there, you see, what happens at the moment is you got national departments that implement, and then you got national departments that are supposed to do the oversight, audit, and inspection functions. But you can't audit yourself. You see, a principle in management is that if I do something, someone else needs to come and audit me. And that's a check and balance.
Yep.
What's happened in our system of government is, I think a lot of money gets misused in an inefficient system. So, members of parliament, ministers, and I think government in general, they start to weaken your oversight functions. They weaken fraud squad, they weaken ombudsmen, they weaken the auditor generals. By weakening all those oversight and oversight mechanisms, it then allows them to do a lot more of this corrupt stuff. Remember, I was telling you earlier about how government is trying to reduce oversight and accountability on the things that it's doing. Even passing an amendment to the NEC Act to make all of their decisions non-justiciable. You can't take it to court. This, if you look at the whole thing in totality, it is an attempt to reduce government accountability. The cutting down of funding to auditor generals, that's not a mistake or an oversight. It's deliberate. The cutting down of funding to the fraud squad, that's not an accident. That's deliberate. It's deliberately done to weaken those institutions so that members of parliament, ministers, and the government of the day can get away with all the things that they're doing. If you move to a block grant system, you will have no choice but to strengthen your oversight function. So Australia does this, right? America does this. China does this. Almost every country that is operating well, providing services and everything else, they use a block grant system. And the block grant system works on the national or the federal government having a policy that they then give down to their states, in this case our provinces, and they give them a bucket of money to implement it. And then they come in and they, every 6 months, every 4 months, the federal government or the national government is down in the provinces doing inspections. 7 years I've been a governor now. There's not been one single audit of the East Sepik provincial government. And about 2-3 years ago, I wrote a letter to the Australian DFAT, Australian government, and I said, look, can you send some people in to audit East Sepik provincial administration and government?
You said that.
I asked them, and they came down and did an audit. Because I didn't do the audit to go and look for the criminals. I did the audit so they can tell us how we are performing. We need to be measured against international benchmarks.
Wow.
I mean, look, your boss will do a performance appraisal on how Kaligan Tanda, are you performing well as a worker or not? You can't do that on yourself. Someone else needs to come and do that. It's the same principle with, you look at private sector. Private sector will bring in an outside auditor to come and check them and then give them recommendations on how they can improve. We don't do these things, but we're supposed to. National government is supposed to come down and check East Sepik province, like Morobe province or Hela provincial government or whoever, check us and make sure that we are delivering on. We've never been checked. We've never been checked because National government is running around being a project manager itself, handing out checks. They're not interested in inspections. Now, when you shift responsibility and you shift funding, that then gives you the space to come in and do the audit, oversight, and inspections, which we are not doing at all. We haven't done this in decades. You talk about a reform to the system to change it, to make it work better. Oh, this is it. But you sabe, plan the old member, you know, like make it because it's going to cause problems. Plan something all over height, make it now, so they don't want that.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, some messages coming in. I think this is just comments. Nicholas from Caving Town morning through saying, please ask Governor Alan Bird if he could have a party and hear it's the people's cry. I will be one of the first to contribute from my small plane. This is exactly what you were saying earlier on. Also, this one from one of our listeners said, good morning, Governor Bird. Please form your new party and pursue your position for 2027 for the PM seat. We have suffered enough at the hands of scavenging, selfish, greedy politicians. From this one says, will opposition sue the Speaker for contempt charges by not allowing Parliament to debate on the VONC before a vote. That's from Abuti Sakiawas. The debate did take place, didn't it?
Oh, well, I mean, they curbed it. And I mean, the greatest disappointment for the opposition is not so much that we lost the vote of no confidence. It was the fact that we weren't allowed to debate. I mean, I stood up to debate. And, government didn't want debate. I think the people of Papua New Guinea would have wanted those supporting the government to stand up and say why they're supporting the government. I mean, I'm sure the people would have wanted to. You want to hear your member saying why they're supporting James Marape to remain as Prime Minister.
Did the court order say that members would have to go back and consult their people?
No.
Prior to that?
I didn't read it, but the first part that I read said that it ordered us to debate.
Yeah.
And look, and then to vote on the motion. Look, one of the things I like to do is that I like to consult my people, and there are some key people that I speak to about, like, what should we do? And, like, here's the thing. The majority of Papua New Guineans that I see, and I've been monitoring social media in particular when James Marape first became Prime Minister, he was very popular. He would go out and take one photograph and put it there, and there'd be like, 5,000 likes, and loves and all these things. And people would go and, there'd be 300 positive comments. Today, James Marape, Prime Minister, when he is making a public speech, and, whether it's MTV or National or Post Korea or whoever, they put their online stuff there. You can read the comments. Most people are laughing at the Prime Minister. And all the comments are negative. There might be one positive comment there, and that comment is probably from someone in his own district, or one of his die-hard supporters. Or what we're finding out lately is that there was a 41 million kina paid to all the internet people that support the Prime Minister. So maybe it's those people that are going in there, and so you'll only find out of 100 comments, there's only 2 people that support the Prime Minister. So he's gone from being liked by thousands of people to now maybe 2 or 3. Now, that's a good measure. I mean, you just go back and check everything that used to happen 6 years ago and you compare that to now. You have a measure right there. So most Papua New Guineans don't want him to be Prime Minister, first of all. I'm sure they'd be happy if, Richard Maru or John Rosso or somebody in their camp, became Prime Minister. People would probably be happy with it. They'd be like, oh, thank God, we get a chance to breathe again, It doesn't necessarily have to be me or, Kerenga Kua or whoever else in the opposition. It can be someone from government, you know what I mean? I think people would be happy with it. People just want to change. They're tired because they're not seeing, because everything that's happening now is happening the way the Prime Minister wants it. He's the one directing traffic. He said it himself. I am the choir master. When he first became Prime Minister, remember? We were at Laguna and he said, I'm just the choir master. Well, this is the choir master directing the choir.
And indeed, not sure if everyone's enjoying the song. We'll take a break at this juncture on the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. Coming up next, as soon as we come back, we'll be opening up the phone lines. On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, 3233 777, 3233 999. NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show. I almost said the National Talk Back Show in this case.
It is.
Well, I think it is. We're probably on, I think, 4,000 views right now, morning through over the line, on the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show. The lines are open, people. 3233 323 Would love to hear from you if you have any questions. Raymond from Toka saying, Governor, thank you so much for taking the time to come and represent the silent majority. What will be your top 5 priorities, priority list if you're given the opportunity to have the top post of PM? Before we take that call.
Oh, well, first of all, law and order. Nothing is going to happen. Businesses are not going to invest. People in the villages are not going to go and plant crops and harvest them and sell them and all these things that we want them to do without a strong law enforcement. So that has to be the priority. It can't be anything else.
This is also to do with corruption as well, I'm guessing.
Look, the whole thing. The first thing is you've got to remove, like, right now. Commissioner Manning, with respect to him, and he's got a really good senior management team. I have respect for those guys. They've got to. Constitutionally, they have the powers to run law and order. It's not the Prime Minister. It's not, Minister Sia Malili. They've got to take their foot off the neck of the police. Right now, the government is controlling the police. They shouldn't. They should let them go, let them do their work. So, free them up to do their job, number one. So if there's a member of parliament who is guilty of something, let the police handle that. Don't bring up and, give directions to the commissioner on all this nonsense. Stop it. Papua New Guinea needs a fully professional operating police force, number one. So all of the entire chain that deals with, law and order, prisons need to be upgraded. People need to know that time you make him something wrong, police hold him pass him, make him savelu you think about. So we've got to sort out magistrates. We've got to, I think national court judges, me play all right, but we've got to sort out the magisterial services. We've got to get them functioning so they're doing a lot more of the work. And then, so that entire ecosystem of law and order needs to be functional.
Not to mention increase the capacity of our jails.
Exactly. You got to build bigger jails. When I got the police to really function in East Sepik, Justice Canning said to come and release people from prison because all passing tent na putimole. When the police really started operating, they were arresting 300-400 people a month.
Goodness.
And our capacity in the jail is only 600. So if you're going to do it to the whole country, you need to build an entire ecosystem. You've got to be ready, yeah. So that's law and order number one. Number two, we've got to immediately start looking at how we get the economy going. We've got to remove the shackles around the private sector. The real engine room for growth in any country is the private sector. The private sector in this country is suffering, and you hear a lot of them. The only people that are probably celebrating are the Connect PNG contractors, People who are doing work for the national government, they're getting paid big time. The real private sector, the ones that are out there doing things and they're not relying on government, they're the ones that are suffering. So we've got to look at all of the difficulties. What are the difficulties? Well, power supply. Most of these businesses can't function because power is not working in the country. You think about it. So we've got to get power working. I have had arguments with William Duma, and I don't know whether it's his fault or whether James Marape and the treasurer are not giving him money, or I don't know what the problem is. But we haven't fixed PNG power, and with respect to the Honorable William Duma, he's been one of the longest serving ministers in state-owned enterprise,
Yeah, yes, he has.
So, we've got to fix something. Whether we privatize or do whatever we've got to do it. And I don't want to blame Duma or whoever, but the point is, in 6 years, this government hasn't fixed it. So you've got to fix that. So private sector needs to come out and do its work. Private sector also needs strong law enforcement for them to do their work. And then they're going to create the jobs. And then the other thing is so that will be my 2 top priorities. And then coming back to the block grant that I keep talking about, that's something that I would want to roll out straight away because it solves a lot of problems. I believe in the Pareto principle, 80-20. Yeah?
Yep.
20% of your effort is going to solve 80% of your problems. So for me, the 80-20 is really in, the block grant mechanism that I keep talking about. It will solve 80% of our problems. It's done so in other countries. I'm not bringing a new idea. When I first got elected, myself and a whole bunch of members, courtesy of the U.S. government, they flew us to America on a study tour, right? So, disla tem tu sampla plan di nubla member American government karimol golo hapya. So all Karim people around Hamas Plus State, we looked at how they were working, and I don't know about the other members of parliament that go on these trips, But when I went on this trip, I learned about the block grant system. And immediately I saw the value of it. And then they took us to Australia on another study tour. Recently, Dr. Billy Joseph and a whole bunch of government MPs were taken down to Australia on the same government tour. I don't know what they learned on the tour, study tour. But I was in Australia on that one. And I had a look at the federal government system from Canberra all the way through to Queensland and New South Wales. And the interesting thing is, Brisbane City, Brisbane City has I think they have a $2 trillion economy or something like that. Billions of dollars, their economy. And Brisbane City is run by a council.
A council?
A council. It's the Brisbane City Council that runs Brisbane. Just like one of our LLGs. So that we've adopted the Australian system, and it's working really well there. We killed it over here. And then what happens? The Australian government gives a block grant down, So me looking all this is something, I mean, oh my God. Like Brisbane City, the GDP of Brisbane City is bigger than Papua New Guinea's GDP. My God. I was that close to Australia. You mean Planis go come Australia? You mean go watch him rugby league solo? Do we ever learn anything from these guys? How they're running their country? I don't know if we do, but I did. I wasn't wasting my time there, playing pokies or running around drinking. I was studying their system. So based on what I learned in America I did some work on a block grant system before, on an abstract basis. I just reading about it, and we wrote a proposal for Charlie Abel when he was minister. Myself and Ricky Komung, and there was an Australian called Phil Wheeler. So we wrote a recommendation when Charlie Abel was planning minister to move to a block granting system. All right. So I knew something about it on an abstract basis. When I went to America and to Australia, I saw it actually working. I was impressed. And I wanted the same thing for Papua New Guinea, and I still want it for Papua New Guinea. So that would be the third thing I would do. In terms of lower down priorities, like there are many other things we can do. I'm the sort of guy, I don't want to do 10 things. I want to focus on 2 or 3 things and get them done and do them right. And for me, I feel law and order, businesses, which helps to fix the economy, and that will help us to fix Forex and many of these other things. One of the things I would immediately do is take a look at what is the delay at Papua LNG? What is the delay at Wafi Golpo? One of the immediate fixes we can do, like, for example, Papua LNG is going to be a $20 billion investment. That's almost 80 billion kina. That one investment will fix our Forex. So what are we fighting over? We're fighting over an extra 1% because James Marape wants to take back PNG and make it the richest black Christian country. If James Marape had not renegotiated Papua LNG, they would have been producing first gas last year. And they would have already spent 80 billion kina in Papua New Guinea, employed thousands of Papua New Guineans. They would have helped to build lots of businesses, just by shutting down that negotiation, because he wanted his own fingerprint on it. I'm not talking me walking. PeterONeill and Charlie Abel walking, me walking. Just for that, he shut down that one. Papua LNG would have been in full production last year, Wafi Golpo, what's the holdup there? I understand the holdup is that government cannot find the money to pay for its shares. That's why Wafi Golpo have stopped Nastapia. Wafi Golpo is a $6 billion investment. That's 24 billion kina.
It's one budget, one annual budget.
Look, plenty time lo business talk. There's an opportunity cost. What was the opportunity cost to shutting down Pokhara, for instance, for 4 years?
Yep.
What was the opportunity cost to stopping Papua LNG, and now it will do first gas in 2032? How many Papua New Guineans suffered? That was an opportunity cost. How much money didn't go to the budget? That was an opportunity cost. How much devaluation of the kina had to happen because we didn't have the investment to support the kina, and our people have to pay more for rice and tin fish? That's an opportunity cost. Now, to me, that's the job of the Prime Minister. You need to understand all of these things and then make your decisions. Not just, we're going to take back PNG and make it the richest black Christian nation on earth in 10 years. You don't do that by shutting things down. I spoke to Charlie Abel. The improvement in Papua LNG is just 1%. So to get an extra 1%, we shut down something that could have been operational for an extra 5 years. And had it been operational, he boasts about a 200 billion kina economy. Had Papua LNG started, we would already be a 200 billion kina economy because of Papua LNG. And this is I don't understand, how they cannot see the future and sort of realize that if you do something here, it gives you a change in 4 years' time. They're not able to see that. And look at it, we are all suffering. We are all suffering because of bad decisions. So these are some of the things I would do. These are low-hanging fruit. You just hurry up, go just straight in and get them done. It would change the country overnight. Look at what PNG LNG did. It just switched the country overnight. Crime in Port Moresby went straight down. Because, that money from PNG LNG was filtering into Port Moresby. People on the street, they were able to get a little job. All month they could pay school fees for their kids or buy their kid bicycle or something. Everyone was happy. Now everyone's suffering.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, we'll be taking your calls immediately after this. Apologies for those calling in. We had to go through that particular question. I thought it was quite important. On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, more coming up. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. Now, this time I promised the lines are open. Give us a call right now. We're not going to start until we get your calls. So, we kind of went a bit on our comments from WhatsApp and our comments on Facebook and so. But now the lines are open. So, if you'd like to be the first to have give a comment or a question, I would say question, question because I think plenty of money, plenty asking more asking Governor Kamlogem. Would love to hear from you. The lines are open 3233 3233 Let's take to the phone lines. Okay, one meeting and ring. No, two phone line down at the moment. Not down, sorry. No one's calling us yet. So please, again, 3233 3233 We've got one call coming in. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback.
Morning. Is this the FM 100 Talkback?
Yes, it is. Your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Sharon. I'm calling from Gordon's.
Sharon, go ahead. Governor's listening.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Governor and the strong 16 men that voted against the vote of no confidence. I'm one of those people that have been commenting on Governor's posts for him to form a party. And my question is, the reality is that, judging from the 2022 general election, there was a lot of fraud, there was a lot of hijacking. So even though I and most of us want you to form a political party, how do you think you can overcome that issue?
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I think that's a good question. As you know, I'm also chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Elections, and we've made a total of over 70 recommendations to the Electoral Commission in terms of how we can fix our electoral system. And obviously, these implementations are going to go on for maybe 10 years. But one of the most important things is to fix up the common roll. And there are suggestions like, for example, developing an app so individuals can go online and they can register their fingerprint, maybe take a photo, and then put in the particulars. So you have some biometric data uploaded onto the electoral roll, the common roll, referred to as the common roll. If we can get the common roll updated, this then provides the basis for people to vote. And then there are some simple things like, for example, a lot of working class Papua New Guineans, they don't like to vote because you go and stand in line, there's so many problems, and you don't even know if you're on the electoral roll, you see. So we've got to make that process more transparent. And like, for example, yourself, if you register as a voter, you need to be able to go and check online that your name is actually there. and against which electorate, so you can go and vote. Now, one of our other recommendations is to also try and provide some some flexibility. So, for instance, if you're working and you can't go out and vote, or if you're a woman and you're scared that you might be intimidated, or if you're disabled and it's going to be difficult for you to find a polling booth and people get aggressive and things like that. So is to figure out a way, and there's a good system in New Zealand, for instance, where the New Zealand voting system, they actually send ballot papers, an electronic ballot paper to voters. So say if you're working and you don't have time to go and stand in line, and you turn up and your name is not on the common roll, all these problems that we know about, we can eliminate that by working class people. They can nominate to vote online, using an online voting platform. So these are some of the simple things that we've recommended, and part of our recommendations actually involve funding the Electoral Commission this year to update the electoral roll. In Australia, they update the electoral roll once a month. In PNG, we do it once every 5 years, and even then, we stuff it up. So one of our recommendations from the committee is that over time, we need to improve the electoral process and maybe update the electoral roll once a year. If we cannot, then we've got to, as I said, we've got to have this online app that allows people to go on and fix it themselves. Update their roll. Like if you move, you go in and update, oh, okay, I moved over here, so I should be voting over here, not over there. So those are some of the things, and as I said, there are 70-odd recommendations, and many to do with structures and this and that and the other thing. However, part of the problem is that, it's going to take time to implement this thing. So we can do some of the fixes before 2027. And already, like people are saying, look, the Pangu government is going to hijack the system and do this, that, and the other thing, and their own candidates are going to come back. So that's going to make it difficult. My response to that is that we've always had problems in elections, and one thing about and I give the Sepik example all the time. Like in East Sepik, people actually protect the ballot boxes. People remember no are involved. There's no guns and things like that involved, and people are just. And there are opportunities, and I think sometimes, I'm not discounting the fact that they might happen. People might hijack a ballot box or something. But by and large, I think that people need to take control of these elections. And the other thing is that, how we run an election, say, up in Hela, and how we run an election in, say, New Ireland, it can be vastly different because the temperament of the voters is different in both places, sort of thing. So, and these are things that the Electoral Commission, the police, they have experience on. But one of the other things that I think in our recommendation is that in our trouble spots, like the Upper Highlands, Morobe, Port Moresby, 6 months before the elections, we've got to send the defense force and everybody in there to clear it out, pick up all the guns and make the election safe. So a lot of those things are already in our very comprehensive report to Parliament. And again, that report was written by people like NRI. You had Transparency International. You had INA, the Institute for National Affairs. So it's a very impartial, very open report that reflects essentially our situation and the fixes that go with it. So I'm hoping, and we will be holding some. I'm still chairman. The government hasn't removed me, so we'll be holding some parliamentary committee meetings this year, and I'm going to be calling up the police and all these people and making sure, including the electoral commissioner, and put them before the committee and find out what sort of work they're doing to get us ready for 2027. So don't worry, we'll hold them accountable, hopefully.
Thank you, Governor.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say thank you again for always giving us hope to keep fighting and hoping for a better future for tomorrow. So thank you for that. Thank you for putting up the fight for the silent majority.
My pleasure. And thank you very much for those comments.
All right, sure. Now we'll talk about Gordon's very quickly. Let me take this time call.
Plain Sugar Time Call. It's 11 a.m.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, let's take to the phone lines. Good morning, FM 100.
Good morning, I'm Robert. I would like to first and foremost, I would like to congratulate Alan Bed, who is for the silent majority in the country. I would like to congratulate him and other opposition to fight for us. And secondly, I have a question. I would like to thank Alan Bed for taking such an initiative for bringing in the foreign external auditors to come, and there's one of the things that I found that Alan has done that most of our MPs are not doing it, and I would like to thank him, and can he also tell us if he has a plan to bring such an initiative like that into East Sepik and implement that can also give an eye-opening to other provinces and districts or challenge them to come up with such initiative, and other Papua New Guineans can also, our members and governors can also do that to do something different to at least promote or increase the welfare of the people and nation as well. So that's one of my questions. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to ask this question.
Robert, thank you so much, my brother. Have a top day.
Thank you. You have a nice day. Bye.
Take it through. Governor?
Yeah, no, look, maybe take the next call and then I'll answer.
All right, to the phone lines. Hello, FM 100 Talkback. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback. Hello, FM 100 Talkback.
Yeah. I'm trying to contribute to some questions.
Okay, you might want to put the volume on your radio down and we can hear you properly.
Hello?
All right, apologies, got to move on. On the next, good morning, FM 100 Talkback.
Hey, Natra.
Morning to your name, please.
Hello?
Your name, please, sir.
Sorry, Jason.
All right, Jason, we've got Governor Bird online. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Governor, for your time. I just want to be frank and just straight to the point. I understand our good governor is very well versed on the sort of dynamics of everything and how it's playing in the country. And I would just like to challenge the governor, our good governor. We are all, in terms of people's choice, it's very clear. Everyone is with you, and you seem to be very intellectual and very articulated with your speeches, which just sort of draw the attention, and we are all with you and together with you. I can assure you with that. I want to challenge you to see if we can take it to another step. Say if you become a leader of a party, which everyone is asking about. I'm not going to go into that, but when you become the leader of a party and you sort of are in the driver's seat, we cannot deny the regionalism that's currently breaking our country up.
True.
So I want you, if possible, to spend some time to sort of explicitly change the organic law as such that Tuplab Southern Region come up after 2 terms, Tuplab Islands come up after 2 terms, Tuplab Momase come up after 2 terms, and then sort of establish that law that the whole country can depend on, so that we can improve our spatial planning in all the region of this place, and we can all benefit as a country. I'm challenged with you, Governor, that Losaibo, when you get that realm and you get that seat, I'm always available, so we can always work together on that, achieving that goal. But that is my sort of ultimate challenge with the you. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Commander.
Jason, thank you so much, my brother. Have a top day. Thank you for the call.
Can I answer these two
Yes,
questions?
sure, Governor, go ahead.
Okay, ask him to Robert. I think that, that's a good question then. And it comes back to my point that national government needs to do audits and inspections, okay? And it's going to be done regularly. So he's quite right. I mean, that's one of the things I think should be instituted, not just by me, but anyone else. Any responsible government would do that. You know, you push funding, you push responsibility down, but go in and audit. Things like even the performance of like our health facilities, our educational facilities. We've got to go in and do all of these audits, not just provincial governments. At the moment, we're not doing that. That way we can figure out what things to improve. It's not just about looking for fault. It's about finding ways to improve. Jason's point on regionalism and breaking us up and maybe shifting the leadership around. You know, in Malaysia, they have a rotating system, you know, so there are things we can look at. But I think the most important thing is everyone wants to be treated equally and fairly. And these are things that are enshrined in the Constitution, yeah? So I think if you're using a block grant system and then you are equally sharing the resources of Papua New Guinea, you know, I think everyone will be happy, you know. You've got to share power. The block grant system, all of these proposals that I've been making is really about sharing power down. And, you know, that call is becoming louder and louder. And I think, you know, whether it's, and you know, it's the cry of the Bougainvillean people too, I believe, because they want to determine their own destiny. And, you know, I think if Papua New Guinea becomes an attractive arrangement, you know, you mentioned a word about a marriage. You know, it's a marriage that's about to break up. So how do you make it attractive so that the participants in the marriage remain? And I think treating everybody equally through the national budget in a transparent manner and then making sure they're all working. I think that's what people are demanding. In the absence of that, everyone wants to break up and become regionals and, you know, go their own way. That's what I believe.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, I'm going to take a break right now, and as I keep saying over and over again, I've got to pay my bills. Speaking of which, many thanks to NASFUN, many thanks to BSP, many thanks to, of course, Telecom PNG for always maintaining their support for the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show. On the NASFUN FM 100 Talkback Show, let's take to the phone lines. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm from my name is Roger. I just have two questions for the good governor this morning.
Roger, go ahead.
All right, my first question is for good governor. If you were the prime minister, what would you do with your government to stabilize the Kina and bring back restore the Kina back to its value? That's one. And my second question is, if you were a PM, and with your background in the mining sectors, what would you do to reduce the tax that is really killing Papua New Guineans who are working in the extractive sector, which they pay about 30 to 40% tax, which is very, very high at the moment. So what would you do to reduce those tax? Thank you very much, my powerful governor.
Roger, thank you very much, my brother. Have a top day up in Goroka.
Thank you.
Cheers. Governor?
All right, just quickly, stabilize the Kina. Well, that's really a function, as I mentioned earlier in the discussion. The fastest way to do it is to bring Wafi Golpu or Papua LNG online. I think those are the opportunities we missed, and the fact that Pogra was closed for a number of years, that's also sort of eaten into our ability. I mean, the value of the Kina, it depends on a number of factors. One of them is our ability to trade, and that's been reduced significantly with the shutting down of Pogra, with pushing back the development of Wafi Golpu, and of course Papua LNG. But into the future, we've got to restructure our economy. We've got to bring agriculture production online. A lot of at the moment, we're not a very productive economy, and that's affecting us. So, as I said, these are the low-lying fruit we can do. We can sort of aim for and get them done very quickly, hopefully. Now, in terms of reducing taxes, I think a lot of it has to do with the inflationary pressure and the devaluation of the Kina. All of this is reducing the buying power of Papua New Guineans, and that's why Papua New Guineans are calling for tax breaks, which is a fair call. And again, I think it comes back to government living within its means. We were talking earlier about the austerity measures. We've got to live within our means, and if we live within our means, it reduces the need for us to tax our people more. At the moment, because we are not using our budget wisely, we are inefficient, there's a lot of wastage, And therefore, Papua New Guineans are having to pay that premium in terms of taxes, and then the demand for more and more money to do more and more things by the government, the value of which we don't measure. So we can't tell you that, all right, Miblago building is like 380 million kina road, Kona, Papua New Guinea, which you have to pay for as a taxpayer. We're not coming back and tell you what value that 380 million kina road is adding to you. So if we can do these things better, and if we can prioritize and invest in things that are of economic value, that improves the economy, that reduces inflation, that makes goods more affordable in the shops, then that means that there's less money we have to take off you. So we've got to look at that whole thing, and then we've got to come up with actions that lead to those outcomes. At the moment, no. And this is one of my issues with the budget. We're just raising money, and then we're just giving it to members of parliament to spend it, and we're not going to check how they're spending it. And therefore, you are getting less value as a taxpayer, and we are demanding that you pay more as a government so that we can go about our ineffective, low return expenses.
We'll take the phone lines again. Hello, FM 100 Talkback.
Hey, good day.
Good day. Your name, please, sir?
Today? I'm calling from New Island.
Henry, is it?
Yes, correct.
From New Island?
Yeah, that's right.
Henry, go ahead. The governor's listening.
Yeah, so firstly, thank you, Governor. And I appreciate you as one of the parliamentary leaders that has been so very vibrant in terms of doing public awareness on this radio and sharing some of the insight in parliament, some of the insight in politics, and some of the insight about what the future looks like for Papua New Guinea. And your heart is very big, that you're not only concentrating on your province of East Sepik, but the greater Papua New Guinea, and thank you for that. It only takes a few leaders to do that, so thank you. My question is, in the light of, the violences, that couple of violences with the current term of parliament that we have unsuccessfully, but you guys, you leaders have been so very vibrant in pushing some of the things that we want to see change. With you being the nominee of one of the VONC and a couple of it which are the nominee, unfortunately didn't went away. With the current trend in which us citizens are trying to push through to see you, putting up a leader and become we want to see you in future leading the country as the CEO. My question is about, and I've read about it, I think, a few years back, where there were talks about the way we appoint Prime Minister to Papua New Guinea. The current process, which the ruling party with the majority numbers that get alternatively them having their party leader as the Prime Minister. What does the future looks like for Papua New Guinea in terms of appointing or Prime Minister elections? Because what I see and would like to see more like what Australia, USA have in terms of the citizen voting for the Prime Minister instead of the ruling party and the candidate appoint the Prime Minister in the floor of Parliament. We want to see that going forward for Papua New Guinea for the citizen to vote for the Prime Minister seat. What is your thought and idea on this approach for the future of Papua New Guinea?
Henry, thank you so much for your call. My brother, have a top day in New Island Province. We'll give it back to the governor to address. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. I think those are good questions. Look, and thank you for the kind remarks too, and thank you everyone for the kind remarks. For me personally, I think a good amount of time for someone to be Prime Minister is 3 years. I think beyond that, Prime Ministers start to get entrenched, and then they start to look for ways to sort of exist forever as Prime Minister. One of the problems I see is that, when one person remains as Prime Minister for a very long time, it reduces the opportunity for us to bring the talents of other people. Because people get entrenched, once you're prime minister and you're able to give a contract to one of your friends, or you're the choir master. So if you direct the choir this way, and power, it makes people, they get drunk on power, and we've seen that with enough of our prime ministers to know that. I think 3 years is a healthy time to have someone there. It's a misconception to think that the longer you have a prime minister, the better things are going to be. We've had dictators that have gone for a long time too and ruined countries. So the argument can go either way. Just because Lee Kuan Yew, who was an exceptional leader, did something in Singapore, everybody wants to point to that. But Lee Kuan Yew is an exception. It's not the rule. Most people can't handle power. As soon as they get into power, all months are long, yeah. And we've seen that enough times. So we've got to guard against the fallibility of human beings. We've got to guard against that. In terms of election mechanisms, for me, it really doesn't matter whether we have the current one or we change to a direct election. The most important thing to me is the check and balances. In every system of government, particularly in a democratic country, you need checks and balances. What we have seen in Papua New Guinea is that when a prime minister gets powerful, he starts to control the speaker, so he controls parliament. So in Papua New Guinea, we've always had the executive government controlling parliament. Parliament doesn't do its own thing. And you always end up, and because the prime minister becomes so powerful, all the members of parliament, they want to be on the powerful side because that's where you get the money to do your projects. This, something you like him, but you kiss him, suppose you start government. Members of parliament will say, when you are in opposition, that's like being in hell because you get nothing in opposition. Something in government as well. So we've already sort of set up the system in such a way that, don't go to opposition. You start and it's true. The government tries to finish off the opposition. If you look at the way it's happening, they try to blame us for all of the problems that are happening in the country. But people forget, one man has been the choir master, one man has been controlling the steer and changing the gears for Papua New Guinea. And that's the prime minister. So we've got to take a look at that. To me, I think if you cannot perform in 3 years, we should try someone else because there's enough talent in Papua New Guinea. We can't just think that one man knows all the answers, And prime ministers develop big heads, Once they become powerful, people say, look, why aren't you giving alternative policy suggestions? We do. We do give alternative policy suggestions. But when 90 people are supporting you, you don't want to listen to Sambla long man noga sabe blol sinan long opposition. You are going to do things the way you want, and that's just human nature. If we can strengthen, like in America, they have the impeachment system. We don't have that here. So you've got to look at a way to keep the prime minister accountable. The VONC mechanism that you saw is actually an accountability mechanism. When you have a threat of a VONC on a prime minister, embassy hey, wait, meeting the pastor and making this something. You think when you remove that, suddenly nobody's checking him now. I'm like blame. Now got a boy blame so stop all make him scrum now, walk him something. So these are the things. Whatever system we look at, we need to strengthen the checks and balances on that system. That's my view.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show, as I keep saying, I've got to take a break at this juncture, got bills to pay, and we'll be right back. Again, the phone lines, 3233 3233 NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show, wherever you may be tuning in from, very, very quickly, as we take to the phone lines. Hello, FM 100 Talk Back.
Good morning, thank you. My name is Melvin. I'm calling all the way from Australia in Perth.
Melvin, go ahead. Hello, Melvin, you still there? Hello? I think we lost Melvin there. Apologies, Melvin. Let's cross over to the other line. Hello, FM 100 Talk Back.
Hello, thank you. Finally, I got you.
Your name, please, sir?
Yes, I'm going to use my fake name because I'm supposed to be at work. So my name is John. But thank you to Governor for making time available to talk to the public.
You're welcome.
Hello?
Yeah, John.
Okay.
Thanks for being at least honest about the fact you're using a fake name. Go ahead, brother.
Anyway, question for me, look, Governor, is about this MPs that move around for political convenience, right? it's quite a trend in PNG recently. Now there's push for you to start your own political party or take up party leadership. My question is, how do you manage these MPs? Because initially we blame PeterONeill, now we're blaming James Morgan, but ultimately the power lies with the MPs. And these MPs that move around, they do it, for reasons only known to them, because in elections they, tell people something, but winning power, they do something else. So my question to Governor is, in the event you take up political party leadership to be, nominee for PM, how will you manage these MPs?
John, thank you so much for your call, my brother. You have a top morning as we get back to the governor. Thanks so much for the call.
Yeah, thank you, John. I think that's the $1 million question right there. And look, let me just say, the Honorable James Marape is very good at managing MPs, as you can see. The way I would resolve it is that I'm a big believer in equality and equal distribution of wealth. And I think it boils down to the wealth. Every member of parliament you talk to, they'll say, look, I need to be in government so I can get the resources in order to do this, that, and the other thing at home. And as I said, I'm an 80-20 person. And for me, the block grant solves that problem. If you can equally share the resources of this nation down to the 22 provinces, first of all, it solves a lot of your development issues. But more than that, it puts the resources right there where the elected representatives of that province can sit down and decide how they use those resources. Like, for example, if, say, Manus is our smallest province. Under a block grant system, they would pick up about 60 to 70 million kina, more than what they got now. With 60 to 70 million kina, the people of Manus, their leaders could decide to build a new hospital, or they can put in a school, or they can fix a road that's, that they need somewhere in Manus. And given that if you have a block grant system over a long period of time, and it becomes the funding mechanism for the future, the people of Manus, the leaders of Manus can plan. They can now afford to plan. You see, right now you can't plan because what's DSIP? What's PSIP? We're running around doing small projects here and there, And a lot of the mechanisms are outside of normal, how shall I say, accountability mechanisms. But if you put it through a transparent budgetary process where everybody comes back to what Dr. Momis talks about, participatory democracy. People participate. So we do it. People keep talking about, bottom up. In East Sepik this year, we finally, we are pushing funds down to LLGs for the first time in our history, all the way down to ward. This year we are doing ward. So we are trying to get that participatory democracy that is intended for in our constitution. So people down there participate all the way up. Under a block granting mechanism, you would actually do that. Now, this to me will stop members of parliament running around because you guarantee the funds under law. So as soon as the budget is split, the first thing you do is you do a block grant, money block, health, education, law and order, road, or something, bang, go straight to province. All right, you play sit down to province, you play decide. Manus, you play like making one. New Island, you play like making one. Central province, what do you want to do? Chimbu, Eastern Highlands, what do you all want to do? Sepik. You push it right down there and then we determine our own future, which is, I think, if you read the Constitution, that was the intention of the Constitution. Right now, who determines the budget framework? It's the Prime Minister, the Treasurer, and his key ministers. They determine the framework. So you in the province, wherever you are, whether you LLG president, ward member, or you just a community leader, you miss out. You don't have a say. And I think that's the thing that Papua New Guineans are struggling with. And right now, all of you calling up, all of you wanting this change, well, you're wanting to participate. You want to have a say in how your suburb is managed, or your ward, or your district. You want to have a say. And because you can't, everybody's getting upset. And I think this is why people are rallying around me, because my idea is not about me having the power. My idea is about everyone else having the power. I think that's the idea that people are gravitating towards. And this is the thing I keep saying. And this will, most of our MPs, they don't understand that what I'm proposing actually gives them more power. And they don't have to run around and, be begging one man or begging a powerful minister or, you don't have to do that anymore. Or something called place, stop la place na. You frustrate him na, fix him la. If you have a power supply issue, well, you guys in Manus fix it. Or you guys in West Sepik fix it. No need logam na, painim William Dumal or Mosby logam na fix it. And this is, I think, the beauty of the block granting system that Papua New Guineans just don't see. And Papua New Guinean members of parliament particularly don't see.
To the phone lines, here we go again. Hello, FM 100 Talkback. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback.
Hello, greetings. Easter's greetings to you and good Governor. It's Ivan here.
Ivan, always a pleasure, my brother. Go ahead.
Thank you, Governor, for your time again. It's good to have you on the show again. Look, I just got one issue I'd like to raise with you. Now, it appears that the VONC is all done and dusted. There could be one hit of another one. But anyway, for me, it's all done and dusted. Governor, my focus is the elections. Now, we all were making a lot of noise after the last elections, saying it was all rigged, and we needed a big change. We're almost 1 year away now, and nothing has changed. We have the same person in charge of the Electoral Commission, and we have the same people running the government. Nothing has changed. I also understand that you are the chairman of the parliamentary committee looking into this aspect. So, if we are going to use the past as any barometer to measure the future, which is 2027, we're all going to have the same result. So, I'll be listening in. Nothing's changed, Governor, if I'm not wrong here. You tell me how elections is going to change come 2027. What's going to change? Where after the elections, we're not going to make a lot of noise and say it was rigged again. I'm at a loss to hear that we still have the same commissioner and the same minister. So from there, you can just deduct straight away that's what's going to change. We're going to have the same people back in government. Just like to get your views on that, Governor.
Ivan, thank you so much for your call. We'll give time for the Governor to respond, but thank you so much for your call, my brother. Have a top day and good ones.
Good, thanks. Cheers.
No, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Ivan. I think that's a genuine concern there. But let me just say, one of the things we didn't have before was a parliamentary oversight committee. You now have a committee. So one of the things we're going to do, and we were going to do it, but because of this recall of parliament for the VONC, we actually deferred our committee hearing. But we're calling up a committee hearing, and you're right. You know, the Honorable PeterONeill brought in a law. He brought in an amendment, so we changed the law. Well, not we, the government did. I objected, and they changed the law to increase the retirement age so they could keep the current commissioner of the Electoral Commission. So, like I said, this government is doing everything in its power to protect itself. But that's what they did. Look, the committee is going to hold the current Electoral Commissioner to account. That's one thing we have now that we didn't have before. And obviously, before, you couldn't call up everybody and find out if they're ready for the elections. But you have a parliament committee which is still chaired by me, and they haven't replaced me. So I'm calling up a meeting in the next couple of weeks before the next parliament sitting, and I'm going to have the commissioner there. I'm even going to call Minister what's his name, Masere. I forget his title now. It's a complicated title. They're making up new ministries all the time.
Minister for Administrative Affairs.
Or something like that, yeah. So, yeah, but we'll call him up.
Administrative Services, sorry.
See, even you can't get it right. I don't even bother, to be honest. So, yeah, we'll call them all up. And look, Ivan, turn up to Parliament for the committee hearing. It's going to be at Parliament, and, you know, the public is welcome. We're doing this on your behalf anyway, so you Papua New Guineans got issue long elections, yeah, and it'll be streamed live. So there you go. It is kind of something, all matters of the public interest. So, you know, we got to do it openly so the entire public can weigh in. The days of, people hiding and doing things. I was the one that proposed that we have a parliamentary committee, and after this, a permanent parliamentary committee on elections. So this is my proposal, and I think James Marape, I was in government at the time, and I proposed it, and they made me the chairman. So I think so while I'm still here, we'll make the most of it.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talk Back Show, time for me to take a break at this juncture. Keep the calls coming in as we head towards 12. This was this morning host and our powerful Governor, Alan Bird. It's very discouraging and disappointing to learn about our MPs from NGI are thinking, how they are thinking and talking. And thanks to your analogy of the rat in the house, which fits them really well. It is indeed very sad. NGI was a powerhouse in PNG politics, and now it's not because of the breed of leadership we now have in the region. If they are listening in now, they should all be ashamed of themselves, as they are not representing the people, but themselves and their incompetence. They can't stand up now. How can they stand up after Bougainville goes? I feel like swearing, so please read this out to the listeners, so people in the NJ region must know how their leaders are like. Thank you, Alan Bird. I'm a diehard supporter, John from Port Moresby. John, thank you to Master Rudla. Let's take to the phone lines. Hello, FM 100 Talkback. And they went off. Hello, FM 100 Talkback. And they went off too as well. Hey, everyone's getting shy. 323377, 323399. Hello, FM 100 Talkback. Good morning, FM 100 Talkback. Okay, let's try another one. Hello, FM 100 Talkback.
Good morning, hello.
Good morning, your name please, sir.
Good morning, again. I'm Charles calling from Goroka.
Charles from Goroka, we've got Governor Bird listening in. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've been a long time follower of talkbacks. But today I decided, really prompted me to call and at least say something in regard to what happened, transpired during the VONC a couple of days ago.
Bro, your country, this is your platform, your opinion matters. You talk.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge a good governor, East Sepik governor. Thank you so much, powerful governor. Really sitting down almost an hour listening to all that transpired from what God has blessed you with. I really appreciate. And I also follow on the Facebook. Many Papuans are calling for you, Governor, to take the helm after 2027 election. And I am falling behind the rest of the nation. We really want you, Governor. Please, we challenge you from your party. And we all people, this party will be for the grassroots people. The political parties we have so far seem to tell us that they are from the stakeholders, people with the money. And so they are powering this party. So when the party gets in, party tend to consider their interest over our grassroots interest. So the party that you're going to form, as people are calling, the grassroots people are calling, it will be a grassroots party. And we will be following behind you. I'm running behind all the other callers and people who are supporting you to really go for it, so we all fall behind you. It seems that at last we have a leader that listens to the cry of the people. And there are many things that we feel that our MPs who voted against the motion don't seem to see what the people are feeling. I really wonder how many of the people from these respective districts and provinces during the outcome of the VONC, say about the decision that the MPs did in regard to voting against the VONC motion. So I personally really want to encourage your good governor. I think the people of East Sepik are very, very inspired, and so in the last almost 50 years they only had two governors, first being when Chief Sir Michael Somare, and now Alan Bird. I think these are the leaders from the region that would really put our country back in the position. And come 2027, Governor, my support to you with the rest of the people in the country, please form a grassroots party
meaning we people, the grassroots level, will be contributing in making sure that this party is registered and go with force in the upcoming election in 2027. Secondly, in regard to the latest amendments being made to the Constitution, I think the government is trying to protect itself and not for the bring about any tangible change that we people are really vying for. We really want a change that will reduce inflation and create employment and all these things. But instead, government is making amendments to the Constitution for the sake of themselves. And I think that's the government that is for the people. So I really have the thumbs up for the 60 members that really voted against or voted for the VONC motion. And Governor, you being part of that, I really want to commend you. And to finish off, Galina, thank you so much for the wonderful contribution you also make to the nation as a whole by being the host of the TOK BEK Show, so that we can be able to bring light to the people who are out there in the communities around the country. Really, thank you so much.
Charles, thank you so much. You have a top day in Goroka. Thank you so much for your contribution as well. And in your case, something to the building, you can phone our income. Thank you, sir, my brother. Have a top day in Goroka.
You too.
Charles from Goroka.
Look, he makes a good point. When the VONC failed, I think Papua New Guineans generally were happy that we did it. I'm cooling all down later. Like, I think people were like, all right, at least Belhebi Bloyumi and Migolo Flow Parliament. I think people have that impression. So there's a little bit of calm, and many people are unhappy with the outcome. Like, I just felt that dissatisfaction blow people, you may put him no flow. And I think that was something that had to be done. I take what Charles is saying. Going back to the earlier comment from the other one that you read out, I think the structure and the system of politics at the moment makes it difficult for members of parliament to really speak their mind. And I can understand that. Many of them want to become politicians and they want to make it a career, and they want to serve their people too. But the structure of our politics is such that, you have to be beholden to one man. And I think that's a difficulty. And one of my proposals has always been to change the structure. And this is where, again, I keep talking about the block grant. The block grant changes the structure of our politics. And it localizes it. It moves it down to wherever it should be situated and where it should rightly be held. So, the concerns of people like, Charles in Goroka, I think we need to find a way that makes members of parliament not just accountable at elections, but accountable throughout the course. And this is where having things like, discussing local initiatives, local solutions to problems and challenges in and around where people are based, pushing it down. And I think that was the initial intention of the provincial government system anyway, is to push the decision-making down to people in the provinces and to give them the money that they need to solve their problems. And I don't think we fully funded that system and made it work. And this is the challenge. And I think when people become prime minister and they become minister, they want to hold the power up here. And as a result, people are complaining at the bottom. So we've got to push it down. And, that's a significant reform. What I'm suggesting is a very significant reform. And I hear the cries and look, some of us are trying. I want to change the system so it works for us better. And I think that's what people want.
On the NASFUN FM 100 Talk BEK Show, I'm going to take a break at this juncture, pardon me. And right on the other side, we'll be coming back. We're probably taking one last call as Governor Bird prepares to exit. I know plenty man got plenty thing like Adam Kamlugam, so we'll see if we can sneak in one more call as we come towards the end of the hour. Welcome back to the NASFUN FM 100 Talk BEK Show. Now, we can't have just one echo chamber where we all get the one kind of ideas that come, you may just go off on each other. Otherwise, we'll get tired of hearing the same message. It's always great to have differing opinions. Now, Chuck from Skyview saying, good morning, Callaghan. Governor Bird, good morning, Callaghan. Governor Bird is privileged to be in Parliament and has the upper hand over us common people to change the government. There's no secret to changing the government as it lies purely on numbers. My question is, why is he not mastering the numbers on the floor, but rather bumping all his righteous claims on social media? He needs to evaluate himself and identify what it takes to be a leader among leaders when it comes to national issues, or in this case, the VONC. That's from Charles of Skyview. So, Bitoka, another differing opinion in this case.
Look, it's a good point. Me no kind man run ago na time. I mean, I talked to members of parliament, and when I was the nominee, I did have discussions with them, and even now when Sir Peter was the nominee, we did have discussions. Plenty time also talk Melanesian pasina. You give him something lo man na by lulu blow you. Me man blow sem lo run give him something, offer him something lo mano. I don't work like that. I have a professional background. That's one side. So me personally, like, having been involved in these VONCs, I've made up my mind that I think that all members of parliament you need to look out them all. These are people that shouldn't be in parliament. I've been in parliament second term blow me now. Me look sabe also, you mean need them all kind leader where all strong blaman, strong Mary. So they don't run around and follow money and cargo and these kind of things. That's my personal opinion. I think that we should have negotiated outcomes, and not outcomes where, we have followed around like cattle, and, and this is where I come back to that change that I think should happen, which is the block grant. If you truly share power, then people are equal. And when people are equal, decisions are made equally. Right now, parliament is an unequal playing field. Like, you talk master the numbers. I've talked to so many MPs in government that are not happy with the Prime Minister. Many of them are very senior. I may not call him name law. They're unhappy with the way Marape is doing things. But at the same time, they're afraid of making a break for many, many reasons that I don't think I should disclose. But fact of the matter is that even they are unhappy, they don't want to make a change. And so, Mia Tini Blomiem, Rosimol Kain Manlo 2027 elections. Me no mentioning Mary because I think our women leaders are quite exceptional, particularly two of them. So me talk man, So, and that's something that I'm seriously thinking about, go out on the campaign trail in 2027, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking. So you start with a clean slate, you start with good people, fresh people, smart people, people with intelligence, and plenty time people are not debate lo parliament, many people are not up to the standard that some of us are at, and and I don't say that negatively, I say that as a fact. And I want to have an intellectual debate with people who can be, at the same level. So we talk about issues. We don't get personal, and you don't treat it like in private something and you get upset about it. You stick to the facts and you make the arguments. And democracy only works with an educated population, unfortunately, and that's the problem we face. Many of our people are not sufficiently educated. Now you give them one left or Coca-Cola, or they vote along tribal lines or this and that. So you end up with someone coming to parliament who is perhaps not up to the standard of some other part of the world. And we become victims of that, and we complain about it. So, me, I spoke to a lot of them, and I didn't say, look, come and join us. I said, look, what do you think? And the response I got from almost everyone in government was, we're unhappy with James Marape, but we don't have a choice, we're going to stick with it. Or, I want to move, but no good me move the Slaman by not move. A lot of them are kind of like that. They're scared of missing out. You move and you miss out. So the funny thing is the large majority of them don't like the way James Marape is doing things. That I can say, honestly. But they don't want to make a move.
As is the case now, just a little talk survey here again. From this point on, I know from the overwhelming support that's come through online, on WhatsApp, and also on our Facebook page as well, Governor, as far as it goes for overwhelming call for you to actually form your own political party come 2027, and if you do choose to run, apart from what you said, your own personal conviction says you want to give it only 10 years, which you're doing, and this could be your last term in Parliament. But you said you're going to have a think about it, talk to those ones closest to you, been with you in this journey that you've come through in your political life, for that matter. Something stubbornly. So Governor Bird said in a few months' time he should be advising you, those who've been calling for him to form a party. Now, while all of that's going on as well, let me just say for those who are actually saying, okay, we also want to listen from the other side. Now we're listening from the opposition side, in this case. All right, talk sabat tasol. Maybe also give him invite Golong all no sakam. So since
just invite no side. No, okay, government MPs,
yes,
ministers.
Government MPs and ministers that we've Talk Back have reached out to them. So first of this one, since we've done a 3-hour program, to you, my listeners, from this point on, I'll be sending invites to, of course, the Prime Minister's office. I'll be sending invites to Treasurer's office as well, respectively also to Peter Samalilia, our police minister in this case, or internal security minister, whichever they call it. And I think some key ministry of some kind. So please, if one will come, and I'll invite him to appear next week. By the end of the week, if no response comes from him, because what I'm saying, if it doesn't happen, please, I did my part. People are being a part of the so if I postpone to another time, we'll keep liaising with them. Don't forget, these are very, very busy individuals. They're running departments, at the same time running more provinces, so make him talk about them. But with that being said, Governor, I don't think you still the time. You always are someone who, I know you're quite busy every time, but you're always willing to give your time for us on Talk Back to come at a moment's notice. And again, thank you so much for always lending your time and having the time to actually converse with our listeners and our viewers right throughout the country and across.
Look, it's my pleasure. I think if you organize yourself well and you've got good people working with you, I've got great people in working in the administration, and they take a lot of the load. And that's why I defend them quite often, because people think that me one man, Mr. Megan Walker. But I've got really good people in East Sepik that support me. And back to the issue that you asked, and I hope government MPs do come and have an open conversation. I mean, some people say, look, I'm not trying to be righteous or anything. I just speak about the truth the way I see it, and somehow it resonates with a lot of Papua New Guineans. I try to have empathy for what a lot of our people are going through. I mean, me, Mr. Golo Plestuna, I see how my people live, and I grew up in a settlement, so, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I know how difficult life can be for most people. You go to Medeng and you talk to the people at Sisiak or Wagol or Gavsto or Deslawara, I'm one of them. I'm one of the kids that struggled from the street to get to where I am. So I'm always conscious of what I didn't grow up in a house where you had food 3 times a day, I'm one of those guys that grew up where you were pouring tea on top of rice na kaya, so you could you understand that. Or katim kaukau na boiling one rice na. You know that. I've done that. So I have humble beginnings. So I miss plenty time miss a waril online no place. And I can go to places like Nuigo because those are the sorts of places I grew up. You talk lo eriman as like I know happy. Me grew up lo kind of place. So I empathize for the ordinary Papua New Guinean, and I like to think that every Papua New Guinean can have an opportunity to better themselves and to through education and other things, and perhaps through business and opportunity and employment. And that's, I think, what every Papua New Guinean wants. Becoming a member of parliament I find it it's a struggle sometimes, and so look, we'll make a decision what happens, and for now until whenever we're going to keep the government accountable, and I enjoy doing that. I think someone needs to, and that's what I'm going to do. Thank you all for all the calls and everything, and Kaligan, keep up the good work, and I hope the government guys come in and take up the opportunities that you invite them to sort of share with our country. Thank you all very much.
Governor, thank you so much, and have a blessed Easter.
One kind. Hey, happy Easter, Olga Mana. You may look a big man to stop now. You missed up.
With that being said, you've got the major news bulletin up next. We're way past time, so
let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth discussions on the issues that matter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
PNG Happenings.